When I was 8 or 9, my grandmother was living in a house in a sleepy Essex suburb. I often visited her with my younger siblings in tow, and we used to spend much of our stay in the garden. Granny's garden was her pride and joy, kept as neat as a guardsman's coat, the grass soft and verdant, shrubs blooming in bright colours. Granny kept order with a pair of garden shears, her eagle eyes and a tub of slug pellets. When we went there during the summer, we were as carefully fussed over, preened and pruned as the roses and the rampant buddleia. I would stand in the sun, sipping orange juice and gripping the grass between my bare toes. What I loved more than this garden, though, was the scrubby track that ran alongside it and out into the wood beyond. The track shrugged up against my grandmother's house and garden, its nettles, hollyhocks and tangles of thorns running shoulder to shoulder with the neatly coiffed gardenias and chrysanthemums, separated by the thinnest panels of smart, stained wooden fence. When we walked along this track, I would linger over the matted grey tufts of badger fur, an ant's nest, a pile of horse poo. These things were 1,000 times more interesting than Granny's perennials. A few hundred yards along this mud trail were the blackberry bushes. They scrambled up the roadside, along fences and over ragged stone walls, thick with thorns and clusters of inky blackberries, some branches hanging low over the track, drooping heavily with fruit. One day, we traipsed along with old ice cream cartons and clustered around these brambles, pulling the fattest, darkest berries from the branch and throwing them, alternately, into our cartons and our mouths. Picking the perfect blackberry took some practice. The sweetest berries were the softest, and so the most likely to crush in your grip as you pinched them from the stem. You had to be careful, all the while whipping your hands back from the pricks of the thorns. Bright purple sticky juice muddled with countless tiny cuts and grazes, which would sting hot all the way back home. Once back from the abundant chaos of blackberrying, we washed our haul, tossed it with apple segments, sugar and cinnamon, and covered it with a thick layer of sweet, nutty crumble. We baked the crumble during the heavy, languid hours of the afternoon. I can't remember what the crumble tasted like in the end, whether the blackberries stained the topping with crimson juice or whether the apples were blandly sweet, crisp, or soggy. I have no idea whether we ate it with cream or custard or ice cream. What I can remember is the sting of those blackberry thorns, the herbal smell of dirt, juice, and sap on my fingertips, and the precious warmth of a berry picked straight from a patch of midday sun. I don't think it's any coincidence that one of my fondest food memories is one with roots spreading far beyond the kitchen table. There is so much more to eating than just eating. Eating is picking blackberries or deciding to pick blackberries next week, or remembering blackberries you picked 15 years ago. It is choosing a mango in the supermarket, one soft enough to hold a dimple when you press a thumb to its flesh, holding it to your nose, and taking a gulp of its heady scent. Eating is texting your housemate, "Let's get takeaway." It's weighing up your options between the taka dal and the Caroline fish stew, and taking the time to squint your eyes, smack your lips, and taste imagine your way to a decision. Eating is feeding someone else. Eating is toasting spices in a hot pan, folding whisked eggs into a cake batter, slowly cranking the handle of a tin opener around a can of tomato soup. Eating is standing in front of the empty fridge, willing inspiration to come. Eating is folding down every page corner in a new recipe book.